Jake Morrison stood at the big window of Orbital Station Alpha, watching the alien ships load up with Earth's minerals again. The gray aliens with 4 arms worked with their usual cold efficiency. They never smiled, never spoke unless they had to, and always acted like humans were stupid children who needed watching. Dr. Lisa Chang walked up behind him, her face tight with anger. She carried a datapad in her hands, and Jake could tell from her expression that the news was bad. Again, they took our fusion reactor designs, she said quietly, so the alien overseers wouldn't hear. The Veilthrans claimed they were too dangerous for us to have. Jake felt his jaw clench. This was the 3rd time this month. Every time humans created something new, something that might help their people, the aliens took it away. They always had the same excuse. Too dangerous, too advanced, not suitable for human development level. What did they give as a reason this time? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would make him angry. The same garbage as always. They said fusion technology in human hands could destabilize our solar system. They're taking the designs back to their homeworld for proper evaluation. Lisa's voice was bitter. Proper evaluation means they'll study our work, improve it, and then sell it to other species while keeping us from using our own invention. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hughes walked into the observation area, carrying official documents. His face looked grim, which meant the day was about to get worse. Ryan had been Jake's friend since their military academy days, and Jake could read his expressions like a book. "What now?" Jake asked. Ryan held up the documents. "Direct order from the Galactic Council. The Zephyrian hegemony has made a formal request for human workers, 10 million of them." 10 million? Lisa stepped back in shock. For what? Mining operations in the Outer Rim. Hard labor, dangerous conditions, minimum life support. The kind of work that kills most species within a few years. Ryan's voice was flat, but Jake could see the rage building behind his eyes. The council approved it as a reasonable request for labor redistribution. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. And if we refuse? Corrective bombardment of major population centers. They're calling it a police action to ensure compliance with galactic labor agreements. The 3 humans stood in silence for a moment. Around them, the space station continued its normal operations. Human technicians maintained alien equipment. Human scientists worked on projects that would be taken away from them. Human workers loaded their planet's resources onto ships that would carry them to alien worlds. Lisa spoke first. 50 years. 50 years since first contact. And this is what we have to show for it. We're slaves with better living conditions. Jake nodded slowly. When the aliens had first arrived, humanity had been so excited. First contact with an advanced galactic civilization. The promise of new technology, new worlds, new possibilities. Instead, they got the suppression protocols. The SAO aliens had explained it so reasonably. Younger species needed guidance. They needed protection from dangerous technologies. They needed time to mature before being given full access to galactic civilization. It had sounded wise, even caring, but 50 years of guidance had turned into 50 years of control. Humans could only travel within their own solar system. They could only develop technologies that the aliens approved. They could only trade what the aliens allowed them to trade. Every aspect of human civilization was managed, controlled, and restricted. Ryan looked around to make sure no aliens were listening, then spoke quietly. "There's going to be a meeting tonight. Deck 7, Maintenance Section C. Spread the word to people we trust." Jake and Lisa nodded. These secret meetings had been happening more often lately. People were getting tired of being treated like children, tired of having their work stolen, tired of being told what they could and couldn't do with their own lives. Administrator Kethvar, the Veilthran overseer, walked into the observation area. His gray skin looked almost metallic under the station lights, and his 4 arms moved with mechanical precision. He never looked directly at humans when he spoke to them, as if they weren't worth his full attention. "Commander Morrison," the alien said in his flat, emotionless voice. "The cargo transfer is proceeding slower than scheduled. Your people need to work more efficiently." Jake forced himself to stay calm. My people are working as fast as safety allows. We've already had 2 accidents this week from pushing too hard. Accidents are the result of inadequate training and poor focus. Perhaps stricter discipline is required. Kethvar's black eyes finally looked at Jake, but there was no emotion in them. No recognition that he was speaking to another intelligent being. The hegemony requires their minerals on schedule. Of course they do, Jake said quietly. The alien didn't catch the sarcasm, or if he did, he didn't care. He turned and walked away, his metallic footsteps echoing down the corridor. Lisa waited until he was gone, then shook her head. Do you ever wonder what would happen if we just said no? Every day, Ryan answered. But saying no means watching our cities burn. Jake stared out the window at the alien ships. They were massive things built for intimidation as much as cargo transport. Their weapons were clearly visible, a constant reminder of who held the real power in this relationship. You know what the worst part is? Jake said. They don't even see us as a threat. We're not enemies to be defeated or rivals to be watched. We're just resources to be managed. Lisa nodded. They've been doing this for thousands of years. They have a system and it works. Keep the younger species dependent, take their best ideas, use their labor, and maintain control through the threat of violence. But it only works if the younger species accept it, Ryan said slowly. Jake looked at his friends. These were good people, smart people, people who had dedicated their lives to serving humanity's interests. They had followed orders, worked within the system, tried to make the best of a bad situation, and where had it gotten them? 10 million people, Jake said quietly. They want to take 10 million of our people and work them to death in alien mines. And if we refuse, they'll kill millions more in bombing raids, Lisa added. So we have a choice, Ryan said. Watch our people die quickly in bombs, or watch them die slowly in mines. Jake felt that cold feeling in his stomach spread through his whole body. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something else. Something that had been building for 50 years of humiliation. 50 years of having his species treated like property. There's a third choice, he said quietly. His friends looked at him. They could see something changing in his expression, something that had been buried for a long time under duty and discipline, and the hope that things might get better. What if we stopped accepting it? Jake continued. What if we stopped playing by their rules? Jake, Lisa said carefully, they have technology we can barely understand. They have ships that could destroy our entire planet. They have weapons that could wipe out our species. Maybe, Jake said. But they also have something else. They have 50 years of underestimating us. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Then, he smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. You know, I've been wondering about something. In 50 years of taking our technology, have they ever wondered what we weren't showing them? Lisa looked between her 2 friends and saw something she hadn't seen in years. Hope. Dangerous, reckless hope, but hope nonetheless. The meeting tonight, she said. It's not just about complaining anymore, is it? Jake shook his head. No. I think it's time we reminded the galaxy that humans didn't get to the top of their own food chain by being nice. Outside the window, the alien ships continued loading Earth's resources. But something had changed in the 3 humans watching them. Something that would soon change everything. The meeting in Maintenance Section C was packed. Jake Morrison counted at least 30 people crowded into the small space between the air recycling units. Engineers, scientists, military officers, civilian administrators, all of them had the same look in their eyes that Jake had seen in the mirror that morning. Enough was enough. Dr. Kevin Baker stood at the center of the group. He was old, maybe 70, with gray hair and tired eyes. But tonight he looked different. Tonight he looked dangerous. I've been waiting for this day for 23 years, Kevin said quietly. Ever since they took my quantum drive designs and told me they were too dangerous for human use. Lisa Chang stepped forward. We all have our stories, Kevin. The question is what we do about it now. Kevin smiled, and it was not a nice smile. We stopped pretending we're helpless. He pulled out a small device that looked like a standard communications tablet, But when he activated it, the air around them shimmered with energy. Jake recognized the technology. It was a privacy shield, military grade, the kind that was supposed to be impossible for humans to build. How do you have that? Ryan, Hughes asked. Same way I have a lot of things the aliens don't know about, Kevin answered. We've been busy these past 50 years. Dr. Maria Santos, the station's head of computer systems, stepped out of the shadows. She was carrying a case that hummed with hidden electronics. Project Lazarus is ready for activation. We just need the word. Jake felt his heart rate increase. What's Project Lazarus? Kevin looked around the room at all the faces watching him. 50 years ago, when the aliens first arrived, some of us saw what was coming. We knew they weren't here to help us. They were here to control us. He paused, letting that sink in. So, we started preparing. Every piece of technology they took from us, we kept copies. Every alien device we could get our hands on, we studied. Every weakness we discovered, we recorded. Every restriction they placed on us, we figured out how to work around. Maria opened her case. Inside were dozens of small devices, each one pulsing with soft blue light. Communication nodes, completely undetectable by alien scanning systems. Every human facility in the solar system has been connected for the past 10 years. Jake stared at the devices. Every facility, every military base, every research station, every mining colony, every ship in the fleet. Kevin's voice was getting stronger. We've been building a shadow network right under their noses. Ryan picked up one of the communication nodes, examining it carefully. This technology is years ahead of anything we're supposed to have. That's because we never stopped developing it, said Dr. Charles Webb, stepping forward from the back of the group. Jake knew Charles from the Weapons Research Division. Officially, humans weren't allowed to research weapons technology. We just got better at hiding it. Kevin activated his tablet again, and suddenly the air filled with holographic displays. Ship designs, weapon schematics, technological blueprints, all of it far beyond what the aliens thought humans were capable of. The cargo ship New Horizon is scheduled to depart tomorrow, Kevin said, pointing to one of the displays. Captain Amy Rodriguez thinks she's commanding a simple freight vessel. She's about to discover that her ship is actually a fully armed battlecruiser. Lisa stared at the ship design. It looked like a normal cargo vessel from the outside, but the internal structure was completely different. Hidden armor plating, concealed weapon systems, advanced shielding technology. How many ships? She asked. All of them, Maria answered. Every human vessel in space has been quietly modified over the past decade. Freighters, mining ships, passenger transports, scientific research vessels. They all have hidden capabilities. Jake felt like the world was spinning around him. The aliens monitor everything. How did they not notice? Because we've been studying them longer than they've been studying us, Kevin said. Did you know that Felthrans are completely colorblind in the red spectrum? Their scanning technology has the same limitation. Paint something the right shade of red and they literally cannot see it. Charles pulled out another device, this one looking like a simple medical scanner. Zephyrians have cybernetic implants that connect directly to their nervous systems. Very advanced, very sophisticated, also very vulnerable to electromagnetic interference at exactly 2.7 gigahertz. Krillians communicate through bioelectric fields, Maria added. Jam the right frequency and their entire command structure falls apart. Jake looked around the room at all these people he thought he knew. Scientists, engineers, workers. They had all been living double lives, preparing for a war he didn't even know was coming. How long have you been planning this? He asked. Since day one, Kevin answered. Some of us remembered history. We knew what happened to civilizations that let themselves become dependent on stronger powers. We decided that wouldn't happen to humanity. Ryan was studying the weapon schematics on the holographic display. These designs are incredible. This plasma cannon could punch through the hull of a Valthran battleship. It's designed to do exactly that, Charles said. We've had 50 years to study their armor, their shielding, their defensive systems. We know exactly how to hurt them. Dr. Patricia Moore, the station's chief medical officer, spoke up from the corner. It's not just weapons and ships. We've been working on biological countermeasures, too. She held up a small vial filled with what looked like ordinary water. This is a targeted bioweapon, completely harmless to humans, but it will shut down Valthrin implant systems within hours of exposure. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You're talking about genocide. No, Patricia said firmly. We're talking about leveling the playing field. These bioweapons won't kill them. They'll just make their technology stop working. Suddenly they'll be as vulnerable as we've been for 50 years. Kevin shut off the holographic display and looked directly at Jake. The question is whether you're ready to give the order. What order? You're the ranking military officer on this station. The activation codes require command authorization. We need you to wake up the network. Jake looked around the room again. All these people, all this preparation, all this hope. They were asking him to start a war. Not just any war, but a war against the most powerful species in the galaxy. What about the 10 million workers they want? What about the bombing threat? Kevin's smile got wider. Let them try. They're about to discover that the helpless little humans they've been pushing around for 50 years have been preparing for this exact moment. Lisa stepped closer to Jake. They think we're weak because we've been following their rules. But we only followed their rules because it gave us time to get ready. Ready for what? To show them what humans are really capable of when we stop holding back. Maria opened another case, this one containing a single device with a red button. The activation signal. One press, and every human in the solar system will know it's time. Jake stared at the button. 50 years of humiliation, 50 years of watching his species be treated like slaves, 50 years of alien boots on human necks, and now finally a chance to do something about it. What makes you think we can win? He asked. Because they've never faced an enemy like us before. Kevin answered. They're used to fighting other civilizations that play by galactic rules. Honor, formal declarations of war, predictable tactics. They've never fought a species that learned warfare by fighting itself for thousands of years. Charles nodded. They think war is about having better technology and bigger ships. They don't understand that war is about will, creativity, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. Jake looked at the button again. Such a small thing to change the fate of an entire species. If we do this, there's no going back, he said. There was never any going back, Ryan replied. They were always going to keep pushing until we broke. The only question was whether we'd break down or break free. Jake reached for the button, then stopped. Promise me something. When this is over, we don't become them. We don't start ruling over other species the way they ruled over us. Kevin nodded solemnly. That's exactly why it has to be us who does this. Someone has to break the cycle. Jake pressed the button. Across the solar system, hidden devices activated. Ships revealed their true nature. Weapons came online. And humanity finally showed the galaxy what they had been building in the shadows. Captain Amy Rodriguez was reviewing cargo manifests when her ship's computer started making sounds she had never heard before. The New Horizon had been her command for 3 years, hauling supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. She knew every sound the old freighter made, and this wasn't one of them. Computer, what's that alarm? She asked. Activation protocol engaged, revealing true configuration. The computer's voice had changed too. It sounded more advanced, more military. Amy watched in amazement as her cargo bay transformed before her eyes. Floor panels slid away to reveal weapon systems. Wall sections retracted to show armor plating. Her simple freight hauler was becoming something else entirely. Holy Mother of God, whispered her first officer, Lieutenant Dan Pierce. Amy, look at these readings. We've got enough firepower to take on a Valthrin cruiser. Amy stared at her control panel. New systems were coming online everywhere. Plasma cannons, missile tubes, defensive shields, electronic warfare suites. Her ship wasn't just armed. It was a weapon of war. Across the solar system, the same transformation was happening on every human vessel. Captain Steve Walker of the mining ship Deep Digger watched his rock crusher turn into a particle beam cannon. Commander Nancy Ford saw her scientific research vessel reveal advanced sensor arrays that could track alien ships from 3-star systems away. On Mars, Colonel Rachel Stone received the activation signal at Olympus Base. The military facility had always seemed underarmed for its size. Now she understood why. Hidden blast doors opened to reveal rows of fighters and bombers that officially didn't exist. "Get me a full status report," she ordered her staff. "I want to know exactly what we're working with." Major Bill Carter ran the numbers and couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Colonel, we've got enough firepower here to take on the entire Zephyrian forward fleet. Where did all this come from?" "We've been building it for 50 years, Rachel answered, piece by piece, hidden in plain sight. Every mining operation that extracted rare metals, every research project that studied alien technology, every construction project that seemed to take too long, it was all part of the plan." The first test came sooner than expected. Administrator Kethvar on Orbital Station Alpha noticed the energy readings from human ships and activated an emergency beacon. Within hours, a Vielthran patrol squadron was heading toward Earth to investigate. Jake Morrison watched the alien ships approach on his screens. 3 heavy cruisers, each one capable of destroying a human city. Under normal circumstances, humanity would surrender immediately and beg for mercy. These weren't normal circumstances. "Lisa, are the bioweapons ready?" he asked. Dr. Lisa Chang checked her readings. "Dispersal drones are loaded and standing by. Patricia's concoction should start affecting their implants within 30 minutes of exposure." "Ryan, what's our tactical situation?" Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hughes had transformed from a logistics officer into a battle commander in the space of an hour. "New Horizon and 2 other armed freighters are in position. Mars Base has launched a squadron of fighters. The Luna facility has activated their defense grid." Jake opened a communication channel to the approaching alien fleet. The face that appeared on his screen was Commander Vexhai, a Vaelthran military officer Jake had dealt with before. The alien's expression was its usual emotionless mask. "Commander Morrison, our sensors detect unauthorized military activity in this system. You will stand down immediately and prepare for inspection." Jake smiled. It felt good to smile at an alien for the first time in 50 years. "Commander Vexhai, I'm afraid we can't do that. You see, we're busy." The alien's forearms moved in what Jake had learned was a gesture of impatience. "You will comply with Galactic Council regulations or face the consequences. Your species cannot hope to resist our superior technology." "You know what, Commander? You're absolutely right. We can't resist your superior technology." Jake's smile got wider. "Lucky for us, we don't have to." The first surprise came when Amy Rodriguez opened fire. The New Horizons plasma cannon struck the lead Vaelthran cruiser dead center. The aliens had raised their shields, confident that human weapons couldn't penetrate their defenses. They were wrong. The plasma beams burned through the alien shields like they weren't there, carving deep gouges in the ship's hull. The Vaelthrans had built their defenses to stop conventional galactic weapons. They had never faced weapons designed specifically to defeat their technology. Commander Vexhai's calm expression changed to one of shock. "Impossible. How do you have weapons of that power level?" "We built them," Jake answered simply. "Turns out humans are pretty good at making things that break other things." The second surprise came when the Vaelthran ships tried to coordinate their response. Their tactical communications suddenly went silent as Dr. Maria Santos activated her jamming systems. The alien ships found themselves isolated, unable to share targeting data or coordinate their movements. The third surprise was the bioweapon attack. Silent drones, too small for alien sensors to detect, approached the Vaelthran ships and released their cargo. Within minutes, the aliens' cybernetic implants started malfunctioning. Their enhanced reflexes failed. Their tactical displays went dark. Their weapon systems stopped responding properly. Captain Steve Walker brought his converted mining ship into the battle, using tactics no alien military academy had ever taught. Instead of fighting like a warship, he fought like a miner, using his ship's industrial equipment as weapons. His rock crusher beam sliced through alien armor like it was cutting through asteroids. Commander Nancy Ford used her research vessels sensors to identify weak points in alien ship design, then transmitted targeting data to human weapons. Every shot hit exactly where it would cause maximum damage. The Valthran squadron, which had arrived expecting to discipline unruly humans, found itself fighting for survival against an enemy they didn't understand. These humans didn't fight like any galactic species. They used tricks, deception, and weapons that didn't follow conventional design principles. Commander Vexhai tried to retreat, but Colonel Rachel Stone's fighters from Mars had positioned themselves to cut off escape routes. The alien commander found himself surrounded by ships that shouldn't exist, using tactics that made no sense, wielding technology that defied galactic understanding. "How is this possible?" he transmitted to Jake. "We monitored your development for 50 years. You never had access to advanced military technology." Jake's expression grew serious. "That's where you made your mistake, Commander. You thought technology was the most important part of warfare. But humans learned something different during our history. The most important part of warfare is the will to win." The battle lasted less than 2 hours. When it was over, all 3 Valthran cruisers were either destroyed or captured. Not a single human ship was lost. But the real victory wasn't the battle itself. It was what the battle proved. For 50 years, the galaxy had believed that humans were weak, dependent, and helpless. The Battle of Earth space shattered that belief completely. Word spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The impossible had happened. A suppressed species had not only resisted their overseers, but had defeated them decisively. The Galactic Council's most advanced military force had been destroyed by creatures they considered barely civilized. Dr. Kevin Baker monitored the alien communications channels and smiled at what he heard. Panic, confusion, and fear. The galactic powers were scrambling to understand how their perfectly ordered system had suddenly collapsed. "Jake," Kevin said, "we're getting reports from across the galaxy. Other suppressed species are asking for copies of our technology. They want to know how we did it." Jake looked out at the wreckage of the alien ships floating in space around Earth. "Tell them the truth. We did it by remembering that freedom isn't something you're given. It's something you take." The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that humans had known for thousands of years. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's the one with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. And humanity had just shown everyone exactly how dangerous they could be. The Council of 12 met in emergency session for the first time in 300 years. Representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, their voices echoing with panic and confusion. Chancellor Vormak of the Zephyrian hegemony slammed his metal fist on the speaker's podium. His cybernetic implants glowed red with anger. "This is impossible. A single suppressed species cannot defeat our most advanced military forces." High Arbiter Zethrin of the Valthrans remained calm, but her forearms were trembling slightly. "Our latest intelligence report suggests the humans have developed technology far beyond their assigned development level. Their weapons cut through our best shields like they were made of paper." Supreme Commander Kreltok of the Krillian Empire hissed through his breathing slits. "How did we not detect this? We monitor every human research facility, every human ship, every human communication." "Apparently, not as well as we thought," admitted Science Director Yildan of the Arcturus Collective. "Our analysis of the wreckage shows weapon designs that are centuries ahead of anything in our databases. Either the humans developed this technology independently, or they had help." Chancellor Vormak's eyes narrowed. "Help from whom?" "Every species in the galaxy follows the suppression protocols. No one would dare arm a restricted species." On Earth, Admiral Dan Parker stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. The vessel had been built, in secret over the past 10 years, disguised as a deep space research station. Now it floated in Earth orbit, its weapons trained on the stars. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Mills, "we're intercepting alien military communications from across the galaxy. They're mobilizing everything they have." Dan nodded grimly. He had expected this response. The Galactic Powers couldn't allow humanity's rebellion to succeed. If one suppressed species could break free, others might try the same thing. "What's our fleet status?" he asked. Captain Linda Hayes, his tactical officer, checked her displays. 200 ships have completed transformation. Another 100 are still revealing their hidden systems. Mars Shipyard is operating at full capacity, building new vessels using alien materials we've captured. Dan smiled at that last part. One of humanity's first moves had been to capture alien supply convoys. Not just to deny resources to the enemy, but to study alien manufacturing techniques. Human engineers were already improving on alien designs, making them faster, stronger, and more efficient. "Sir," interrupted Commander Robert Nash from the sensor station. "Long-range scouts report a massive fleet movement in the Zephyrian home system, at least 500 ships heading our way. Time to arrival? 4 days at their maximum speed." Dan considered this. 4 days to prepare for the largest space battle in human history. 4 days to prove that humanity's victory over the Valthran. Patrol wasn't just luck. Send word to all human forces. Operation Liberation is now active. Across the galaxy, human cells that had been dormant for decades suddenly came to life. Dr. Carl Davis, working from a hidden facility on Europa, activated manufacturing systems that had been disguised as mining equipment. Within hours, they were producing thousands of combat drones designed to swarm alien ships. On the industrial moon of Titan, Commander Helen Brooks oversaw the production of humanity's secret weapon. Not ships or guns, but something far more dangerous. To the Galactic Order. Information. "How many species are we in contact with now?" she asked her communications team. 47 suppressed civilizations have requested copies of our weapon designs, reported technician Mike Stone. 18 more are asking for tactical advice. The Deltan Republic wants to coordinate a simultaneous uprising. Helen smiled. This was the part of the plan that the aliens would never see coming. Humans weren't just fighting for their own freedom. They were fighting to destroy the entire system of galactic oppression. "Send them everything," she ordered. "Weapon schematics, tactical manuals, bioweapon formulas. Let every suppressed species in the galaxy know that resistance is possible." The first major engagement came at the Kepler station, a strategic outpost that controlled the main trade routes between the inner and outer systems. The Krillian Empire sent their third battle fleet to retake the station, confident that their superior numbers would overwhelm the human defenders. Commander Sarah Mitchell waited for them with 12 converted cargo ships and a squadron of fighters, launched from Mars. The Krillians had 60 warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. The battle should have been a massacre. It was, but not the way the Krillians expected. Sarah had studied alien tactical doctrine for years. She knew that galactic species fought in predictable patterns. They formed battle lines, exchanged long-range fire, and tried to overwhelm their enemies through superior firepower. Humans fought differently. Sarah's ships scattered before the Krillian fleet arrived, hiding behind asteroids and space debris. When the aliens entered the system, they found no targets to shoot at. Their sensors detected human ships, but they kept disappearing and reappearing in unexpected locations. "Where are they?" demanded Krillian Fleet Commander Threknall. "Our sensors show 12 ships, but they're everywhere at once." His tactical officer checked the readings again. "Sir, I think they're using the asteroid field to mask their movements. Every time we get a lock on one ship, it disappears behind another rock." Commander Threknall had fought many battles, but never against an enemy that refused to stand and fight. "All ships spread formation. We'll flush them out." That was exactly what Sarah had been waiting for. The moment the Krillian ships separated, her hidden forces struck. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, fired their weapons, and vanished again before the aliens could respond. But the real surprise was the electronic warfare attack. Dr. Maria Santos had discovered that Krillian ships used bioelectric fields for communication and coordination. Jamming those fields didn't just disrupt their communications, it caused their entire command structure to collapse. Suddenly, 60 Krillian ships found themselves fighting as 60 individual vessels instead of one coordinated fleet. They couldn't share targeting data, couldn't coordinate movements, couldn't even tell their own ships apart from the enemy in the chaos of battle. Sarah's forces picked them off one by one, using hit-and-run tactics that no galactic military academy had ever taught. When the battle ended 6 hours later, the entire Krillian Third Battle Fleet had been destroyed. The human losses were minimal. News of the Kepler battle spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The impossible had happened again. Not only had humans defeated another superior force, but they had done it using tactics that seemed to defy military logic. On Nexus Prime, the Council of 12 was in chaos. Species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia were discovering that their military might meant nothing against an enemy they didn't understand. "We need to negotiate," urged Trade Minister Velnash of the Orion Syndicate. "The humans have proven they can hurt us. Perhaps we should offer them better terms." "Negotiate?" Chancellor Vormak's voice rose to a shout. "We don't negotiate with inferior species, we crush them." High Arbiter Zethrin shook her head. "With what? They've destroyed 2 of our fleets and captured enough of our technology to reverse engineer our best weapons. Every day we wait, they get stronger." Dr. Kevin Baker, monitoring alien communications from his hidden facility on Earth, laughed at their panic. "They still don't understand," he told Jake Morrison over their secure channel. "They think this is about technology or tactics. They don't realize we're fighting a completely different kind of war." Jake nodded. "They're fighting to maintain their power. We're fighting for our survival. Those aren't the same thing at all." "What's our next move?" Jake looked at the strategic display showing alien fleet movements across the galaxy. "We give them something they've never seen before. A war fought on every front at once by every oppressed species in the galaxy. The galactic powers were about to learn that their perfectly ordered system had a fatal flaw. It only worked as long as the oppressed species accepted their oppression. Once that acceptance ended, the entire structure would collapse, and humanity was making sure that acceptance ended everywhere at once." 6 months after the first human uprising, Ambassador Helen Brooks walked through the great halls of Nexus Prime. The same building where the Council of 12 had once decided the fate of billions now served as the meeting place for a very different kind of gathering. Representatives from 200 species filled the chamber. Many of them had never been allowed to speak in this room before. They were the formerly suppressed, the restricted, the controlled. Now they sat as equals, deciding the future of galactic civilization. Helen took her place at the speaker's podium where Chancellor Vormak had once shouted his demands. The irony wasn't lost on her. 6 months ago, she had been hiding in secret, facilities coordinating a rebellion. Today she was addressing the new Galactic Assembly as humanity's representative. 6 months ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "My species was given an ultimatum. Provide 10 million workers for slave labor, or watch our cities burn. We chose a third option. We chose freedom." The assembly listened in complete silence. Among the crowd, Helen could see former council members sitting in the back rows. They were no longer rulers, just another voice in a democratic system they had never wanted to create. But this was never just about humanity. Helen continued. It was about breaking a system that kept entire civilizations in chains. It was about proving that no species has the right to control another. In the months following humanity's first victories, the galaxy had changed completely. The carefully maintained order of powerful species ruling over weaker ones had collapsed in a matter of weeks. As soon as other civilizations saw that resistance was possible, rebellions erupted everywhere. The Deltan Republic had been the first to follow humanity's example. Using weapon designs shared by human engineers, they had destroyed the Arcturus, fleet that controlled their system. The Mendari Collective had used human bioweapons to disable Zephyrian occupation forces. The Corvin Unity had adopted human tactics to defeat a Krillian armada, twice their size. General Mike Carter stood in the Military Coordination Center on Luna, watching status reports from across the galaxy. His title now was Director of the Galactic Defense Coalition, a position that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. "Status report," he requested from his staff. Commander Lisa Chang, now serving as head of intelligence operations, read from her datapad. 47 systems have declared independence from Council control. 12 more are in active rebellion. The remaining Council forces are consolidating around their homeworlds. What about the suppression facilities? All destroyed or captured. We've liberated over 3 billion beings from various forms of controlled labor. Most of them are requesting citizenship in the new coalition governments. Mike nodded with satisfaction. The suppression protocols hadn't just restricted technology and travel. They had created a massive system of forced labor that fed the galactic economy. Breaking that system had freed more people than anyone had imagined possible. Dr. Kevin Baker entered the command center, carrying reports from the technology division. At 73, he had become one of the most important figures in the new galactic order. His hidden research programs had not only enabled humanity's victory, but had provided the foundation for rebuilding galactic civilization on more equal terms. The technology sharing program is ahead of schedule, he reported. We've distributed manufacturing capabilities to over 100 species. Many of them are already improving on our designs. Mike smiled at that. One of humanity's first decisions had been to share their advanced technology freely with any species that wanted it. The old galactic powers had hoarded technology to maintain control. Humans had realized that sharing it would create stronger allies and a more stable galaxy. Any word from the former Council species? Kevin's expression grew more serious. The Valthrans have requested a formal meeting. They want to discuss terms for joining the new galactic government. After everything they did, they want to join us. They don't have much choice. Their economy depended on controlling other species. Without that control, they're just another mid-level civilization. They need trade partners and allies. Back. In the assembly chamber, a Valthran representative stood to address the gathering. High Arbiter Zethrin, who had once spoken for one of the galaxy's most powerful species, now sought permission to speak in a democratic forum. My people acknowledge the wrongs we committed under the old system, she said, her forearms moving in a gesture of submission. We request the opportunity to make amends and contribute to the new galactic order. Helen looked out at the assembly. Many of the representatives were species that had suffered under Valthran rule. They had every right to seek revenge, to exclude their former oppressors from the new system. The question before us, Helen said, is whether we will repeat the mistakes of the old system or create something better. A Delton representative stood up. How do we know they won't try to dominate us again when they get the chance? It was a fair question. The Valthrans had ruled over other species for thousands of years. Changing that mindset wouldn't happen overnight. Because the new system won't allow it, answered Dr. Maria Santos, now serving as humanity's technology coordinator. We've designed the coalition government with multiple safeguards. No single species can control the others. No species can suppress another's development. And most importantly, every species has access to the same defensive technologies. This was perhaps humanity's greatest innovation. Instead of trying to maintain peace through the threat of superior force, the new galactic government maintained peace through mutual defense. Every species had access to weapons and technology advanced enough to defend themselves against any aggressor. A Krillian delegate hissed a question through his breathing slits. What about enforcement? How do we stop individual species from becoming aggressive? Colonel Rachel Stone, now commanding the Coalition Defense Force, answered from her position near the speaker's platform. The same way we stopped the old council. Any species that tries to dominate others will face the combined response of everyone else. The principle was simple but effective. In the old system, a few powerful species had controlled many weaker ones. In the new system, hundreds of equally armed species would unite against any single aggressor. The mathematics made conquest impossible. As the assembly session continued, Helen reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been on the verge of slavery. Today, they were helping to build a galactic civilization based on freedom and equality. But the real victory wasn't in the battles they had won or the governments they had toppled. It was in proving that the galaxy's greatest strength came from cooperation, not domination. Ambassador Jake Morrison, now serving as humanity's diplomatic coordinator, joined Helen at the speaker's platform. The vote is almost unanimous, he reported quietly. The new Galactic Charter will pass with support from over 90% of the species. Helen nodded. The Charter would formally establish the coalition of free worlds, replacing the old council system with true democratic government. It would guarantee the rights of all species to develop their own technology, control their own resources, and determine their own destiny. Any species want to maintain the old system? She asked. Jake smiled. Just 3, all former council members, and even they're asking for observer status in the new government. Helen looked out at the assembly one more time. Representatives from species that had been enemies were now working together to solve common problems. Former oppressors sat next to their former victims, participating in debates about trade, defense, and cooperation. You know, she said to Jake, when we pressed that activation button, I thought we were just fighting for human freedom. We were, but it turns out that fighting for freedom is contagious. As the assembly voted to approve the new Galactic Charter, Helen thought about the words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. No species would forget the day humanity finally broke, not because of the destruction they had caused, but because of the freedom they had created. The galaxy was no longer ruled by the strong preying on the weak. It was governed by cooperation, mutual respect, and the understanding that every species had the right to determine its own path among the stars. And it had all started with humans refusing to accept that any other species had the right to control their destiny.